This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to all of you out there, and a very special good morning to all of our 10-cent video viewers. Welcome to the show. Please feel free to leave any questions in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you today. Here we've got a wonderful herd of a wildebeest, and my name is Steve Falconbridge, joined by BK on camera, and we're very excited to have you with us. Now, these wildebeest are just walking through the early morning light, and we're trying to keep up with them. They've been walking along this open area, trying to be a bit camera shy. It's a wonderful morning. It's not too cold. It's only 9 degrees Celsius today. 48 degrees Fahrenheit. We've got a beautiful, beautiful morning ahead of us. There's a small family group of wildebeest, lots of females with their babies, and there's one big dominant bull in amongst the herd. He's the one who's going to cross the road now. There's a big bull over there. If you look at him, you can see he's a bit darker than the rest, and if he stood next to the others, you'd also notice he's quite a bit bigger. And the rest of the herd seems to be following him. He is a territorial bull who's demarcated these open areas here as his own. There's just a sign over there to one of our lodges. And here they come. The great migration has begun. It's only a small little movement of wildebeest from one side of the road to the other. They've probably been resting most of the evening. It's now time to go and get some grass. They are exclusively grazers, which means that they feed on grass, just like cows do. Okay, well, I'm just going to move up and just allow you to just spend one moment with them as they disappear into the bushes.
Good morning, everyone. A special welcome to all our 10-cent viewers. Welcome back. And welcome to And Beyond Ngalo with me, Rowan, and Odie behind the camera. So we are pretty much in the last position where the lions were yesterday. So they were calling all night, and we heard them again at 5:15 this morning. And it kind of sounded like it was still in this area. So what we've done now is actually just stopped for a little bit and waiting to hear if maybe there's one more roar left. I mean, it is cold enough for their sound to travel very, very far if they want to start roaring. Of course, it was quite nice. The tented camp, to give you an idea where we're staying, is about 300 meters in that direction. So, of course, the sound was just echoing through the Tumavati riverbed the whole night long. And we're just waiting for one more to tell us exactly where they are. Nice, as you can imagine, 15 lions roaring all together like that. Quite the noise. But yeah, what a beautiful morning. Not a cloud in the sky. It's the first time this has happened now in 5 days. So we're actually hoping for a bit of heat today and not that cold, gloomy weather we've had for the past week almost. Come on, lions. So far what we've done is we checked the river, we checked on the other side, and no tracks of them crossing that way. So they could have only gone that way, or that way, which we still have to go check. So we've got quite the morning cut out for ourselves. I'm hoping that this Birmingham Pride is going to link up with the young lioness with the 2 babies. We haven't seen her in quite some time, and we're thinking that she might be in this area, somewhere along the Tumavati River. So fingers crossed that would happen.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome aboard to this chilly morning out here in Juma. How beautiful is that sun just peeking over, giving us some gorgeous, gorgeous light. Just awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Trishala, and I've got Davi on camera this morning. And a very warm welcome to our 10-cent video viewers. I'm so glad to be with you this morning for your very own live safari. Now, we are looking about for any clues that the bush may have for us, but I do know that there's a little critter nearby that I'd love to introduce you to. So let's go and see it. It's just around this corner. Hopefully it won't be too tucked in to the bush. Skimp, you say it's a very early morning in Africa right now. It really is a very early morning. It is, about a couple minutes past 6 now? 36 minutes past 6, so it is indeed an early morning. Now this is where my friend lives. Let's see if we can spot it. Oh, I can see it, Davi. Can you? I wonder if it's spotted. It is a master of disguise. I might just hop off and try to point it out. It is none other than a gorgeous chameleon. Can you see him just through there? Just slightly. I know a chameleon is probably the most difficult thing to spot without light, but it's just right there. Got him, Davi. Very nice. I'm just going to move this branch back. Now that Davi spotted it, you'll at least be able to see it a little bit through the bushes, and I can hop on board so that I can grab any questions that you may have about this lovely chameleon. Remember, for our 10-cent viewers, you can drop your questions into that comment and question box. They're very, very difficult to spot. But we've managed just down there. Look at that skin. Gorgeous skin. Now, he would be quite cold, which is why it's tucked away into those bushes. Remember it being such an early morning in Africa, as we said, 9 degrees Celsius, 45 degrees Fahrenheit, and these little guys, being reptiles, will be very, very cold. Really, really awesome. This is a flap-necked chameleon. Gorgeous. Well, we're going to keep on going and look for some other critters in the bush.
Welcome back. It's just beautiful scenes unfolding here. As the sun is slowly rising in the east. This herd of wildebeest moving across this open area. They have survived another night. So nighttime is always the hardest time for many of these animals, because that is when our predators are at their most active. There's a little youngster that was born in December. In the middle. Wonderful to just witness these animals walking together in point formation. If anybody's ever been in the army or seen the army, there's always that straight long line that we walk in. One person walks at the front, because danger always comes from the front. If a herd is walking like this, the potential to walk into a pride of lions is there. And so by walking in a line like this, the first individual has more chance of seeing them or getting caught. Hello, romantic. You want to know what these animals are? These are called gnus, or the Blue Wildebeest, also known as the brindled gnu. Now, the name gnu comes from the fact that they make a noise. They go gnu, gnu, something like that. And they are actually a type of antelope, but very different from many of the antelopes that we see. They're a cloven-hoofed animal, and they are designed for walking and sort of marching a very long distance. In most parts of the savanna in Africa, they form probably a very high portion of lion pride diet. And if you've ever been to the migration up in Kenya, the Serengeti, let's move up there, BK. That is where we get a different type of wildebeest called the white-bearded wildebeest. And wildebeest is actually a South African or Afrikaans word which translates to be wild cow. Wildebeest, wild cow. So the first settlers to South Africa would have seen these guys running around, behaving crazily, which they do sometimes, hoping we're going to get them doing it now as they move off there into the nice light. And the first people who arrived thought they're a little bit mad cows. Not quite sure how much like a cow, but back in the day, they definitely looked like a cow to the first settlers.
Good morning and welcome to and Beyond Punda Private Game Reserve. My name is Damon, and behind the camera this morning we have Marcel, and we've come out here into the freezing cold morning of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa in search of lions. We've managed to find them, a pride of lions up on the rocks of this little crater here. Is that not just the most majestic scene ever? It's like something out of the Lion King. Look at that lioness on that middle rock there, looking out over her territory. Look at how big she is. And then just to the left of her, there's another little rock. Can you see up on the top there, there's another lion? Look at how much smaller that lion is. So, and also look at its look at the front of its back legs. Can you see how spotty it is? And that helps to tell us that this is a young lion. When lions are born, when they're little cubs, they're covered in little spots to help to keep them camouflaged. But as they get older, those spots start to fade. So the fact that those spots are still there means it's still quite a young lion. Chow, you're asking if these lions will attack us. Chow, they will not. So because these lions have become used to the presence of vehicles, they know that vehicles don't pose them any threat. They know that the vehicle doesn't pose them any threat because we've been super careful with them. Whenever we are around them with the vehicle, we make sure that they don't see the vehicle as food. We make sure they don't see the vehicle to bring them any benefits, and we make sure that they don't get afraid of the vehicle. So we're always very sensitive towards them, and so as a result, they kind of just ignore us. Lacey, you're saying this is just magical. I couldn't agree with you more. I started to fist pump the air when we came around the corner and saw these lions. Like I was saying earlier, it's the most magnificent place for a lion to be, perched up on a big rock, scanning over its territory. We're going to sit with these lions for a bit and just take in the scenery.
We have managed to get a slightly better view of our flap-necked chameleon, so we thought we'd stay with it just for a little while longer, so you guys can send through your questions. You can drop them in the comments section. Just awesome. Now you can have a really good look at that eye bulge underneath the neck. Chemical, good morning. How are you? You'd like to know, is this program live? It certainly is, and that's why we can speak to you. It's live, it's interactive, and what you see is going on right now in South Africa, live 100%. So this flat-necked chameleon is in a bush in the nature reserve in South Africa at this very moment that you are asking. Now, isn't that just awesome? And that's why nature can be so unpredictable, because we are live, we have to search for animals. We see the small creatures, we see the big creatures like you just saw, the lions. All absolutely live. Look at how well that chameleon is hidden in the green of that bush. Now, this is quite a large chameleon. It's about 30 to 35 centimeters with the tail rolled out as well. So that's quite big. One of the bigger individuals that I've seen out here. That little bulge in the neck is part of a structure that helps propel its telescopic tongue in that typical way that you see chameleons feed. It's called a hyoid bone because it needs to be quite robust. It sticks out a little bit, like an Adam's apple almost. It's one of my favorite things to have a look at here. Well, I'm going to keep on moving. I think that you'd prefer to have a look at some lions.
Welcome back, everyone. And as Trish was saying, that's one of her favorite things in Juma. This is one of my favorite things here at Pinda, is to spend time with lions while they're awake and moving around. And look at what's happened since you guys have been gone. 2 more lions have climbed up into that big rock. So there's now 3 lions up on that middle rock. Shame that poor lioness has had her little spot taken, and now suddenly there's a crowd up there. And it might be quite fun now to watch, because with it still being quite cool, these lions are going to be moving around, they're going to be quite active. They've got pretty full bellies, and often, remember I mentioned earlier that there's a couple of young lions in this pride, and with full bellies it often gives them time to play. And so if we spend a bit of time here, we might be rewarded in getting to watch these lions playing with each other, with them being such social cats, and with pride bonds being very important in their family, chasing each other around, and that allows the youngsters to practice their hunting skills, practice their agility, develop the muscles they'll need for hunting. Look, already it's starting. See how that youngster just patted the adult lioness on the back with her paw? Afternoon sun, you're asking if these lions are going to find breakfast. Afternoon sun, I don't think that's there on the cards for the morning. Yesterday we did see these lions busy eating a young zebra, and so their tummies are pretty full. But that being said, if an opportunity does arise, for example, if they were to come across any kind of animal that looked like it would be worthwhile for them to hunt, they'll definitely take the opportunity. Lions, of course, never know when they'll get to eat next, and so any opportunity they'll take. Watch now. See this lioness? You're going to see if she's going to try and come down. Look at how hesitant she looks. Here she comes. Here she comes. Here she comes. Ah, easy. So that was the adult lioness coming down. Let's see if the youngsters firstly want to come down, and secondly if they can do it as easily as she did it. Look at that youngster on the left. Look at how it's busy scanning off into the distance. body, you're asking if there's any male lions in this pride. A small body, within the group that we have here in front of us, there's 6 lions in front of us, and the 2 currently on the far right are young males. They're only about a year old. But this pride does have 2 big males that do come to them from time to time. The 2 big males here have got such a big territory that it actually overlaps with 2 different lioness prides. And so they'll divide their time between this pride and the other pride. So they very seldom spend more than a couple of days with this exact pride. Oh, look at the stalking happening. There's a youngster stalking its sibling. Let's see what happens here. Oh, stalking its mother, never mind. Oh, no, Mom laid down and she lost interest. And see, like I was saying, these youngsters are looking for things to play with. They're looking for games. And I'm sure the longer we spend here, the more active they'll get. But as I was saying, look at how alert they are and how they're scanning off into the distance. And scanning out or scanning for any signs of potential danger. Just keeping a lookout around them.
Thanks, Damon, and well, you're back at Juma Private Game Reserve, and these impalas were shouting. They're going and looking. Normally, when impalas do that, we find a leopard. Now, I've done a little loop around. I haven't managed to find anything. There's the big male impala. They're looking far more relaxed than they were shouting. At least 3 or 4 of them. They're looking down towards our right. It's possible there's a leopard that has just vanished somewhere over here. I'm just going to do another loop over here. The impala's moving where they probably lost sight of it. As soon as the animals shout at a leopard, the leopard's camouflage has been given away. Its stealthy tactics of hunting have been lost, and they generally just flitter off and disappear. And it can be quite difficult to find them if you don't know exactly where they were. So we just do one more little scan down here. It's a wonderful light to be finding a leopard in. Little sheep, this live broadcast is so nice. Well, it's wonderful to have you on board. I hope you're enjoying yourself. I know I thoroughly am. Now, there is a male leopard that hangs around here whose name is Moati, who's very, very skittish. So if he is the one they shouted at, probably we won't be able to find him. But Damon has had luck. He's already with his cats.
Welcome back. We're still with our lion pride. They're still busy steering in the same direction. And I've had a look into the distance, and I can't unfortunately see what they are looking at currently. They may have spotted something on the far hillside, which is what they're looking at. Interesting how there's a couple of them all looking in that direction, so it must be something of interest. And of course, lions with their eyes in the front of their faces, just like ours, got very good binocular vision, and they can spot things from quite a distance away. That lioness is still proud up on her prominent perch. And so it seems that her little maneuver was a clever ploy to get all the other lions to get off of her rock so that she could lie up there and have it all to herself. Over again, you're saying that the lions look so strong. I absolutely agree with you. Look at those big muscles around their shoulders and around their necks. I think that's pretty much what we can see from this angle. And those big muscles in the front of their body there to help them to wrestle their prey to the ground, and then even to drag their the carcass of their prey around if they need to move it under some shade so that they can eat it in comfort, or move it under a tree to keep it out of sight of scavenging birds like vultures. Of course, spiraling vultures over a carcass could attract unwanted attention from hyenas or from other lions that they don't want to share their kills with. And that's part of the story behind the success of lions, is that immense strength that they've got. Looking very snug up on her heel there. And now that we can see out of the youngsters there, I don't know, in the middle of that group, there's one lion that's sitting alone, and it's looking more or less towards us. Have a look around his neck. Can you see that there's some long hair growing there? And we were speaking about the male lions in this group. Now, I said that this was one of the young males, and that's how we can tell that he's a young male lion, is that hair that's growing around the side of his face. And as he gets older, it's just going to get longer and darker until he turns into a beautiful male lion.
So we just found these. Oh, look, they're just gonna jump right on him. Look at all the blood on the white lion. So, I don't know. Yeah, listen. So in the distance, you can hear the pride roaring. And actually what happened, we found tracks of the pride of these lions. This is the Birmingham pride, by the way. You can see the white lion is the one a little bit further off from these two that were just playing. But look at all the blood on him. Look how it stands out. This one might start roaring as well. So these are just 3 youngsters, and you can see all the blood on them, and I think they might still be feeding on the other side. You can see it's fresh blood. So Kevin, this one's trying to call. So Kevin, sorry, I know you've asked how old are these lions. Kevin, various ages. The white lion is about 1 year and 9 months now. This one trying to call, I think it's also 1 year and 9 months. And the other one walking in, it's about 1 year and 7.5 months. Various ages. Let's see. I think what they might do is walk around to that big, nice Marilla tree. They might have a carcass there that they're still finishing. So in a bit, we're going to give it some time and then go see if we can find them on the other side. This one's softly trying to contact call. So this is what we heard when we were walking, when we were following the tracks or trying to follow the tracks. Just heard the soft contact call. Oh, the white lion's stalking the tawny one. See, it's time for a bit of play now. They just had food. It's starting to warm up a little bit, so it's still full of energy. A lovely time to be with lions. Around the World Rabbit is commenting that she likes, or he likes, oh, look at this. She likes female lions or lionesses so much. Around the World Rabbit, I just like all lions. To be honest, I think all lions are very majestic and just amazing. You can hear the rest moaning where the other two are looking now. Quite fun to go see what's happening in that area. These two just want to play. So around the world, the tawny one here is a female, and the white one is a young male. They're pretty much the same age. Oh, he's calling. Amazing how pink the shoulders are on him. You can see the tawny one still has blood just on her neck, just below her face. Cool how the breath is coming out too. So tomato and green pepper right? You've asked why is the lion so white. I'll answer your question in a bit. I'm just wanting to see. Yeah, the rest are calling back. So it's just so nice with all the sounds going on, all of them contact calling to each other. And then the breath being expelled there. Right, so in answer to that question, it's known as a white lion. It's exactly the same as the tawny lion, except that it's a genetic variation. So they still have pigmentation behind the ears, on the pads. It's just, it came out white, just genes. So in order for it to happen, both the female and the male has to have that white gene. And yeah, voila. So we've got two of them. So what you're seeing right now is the young male. And the young female, I can bet you, is where the carcass is, whatever they're eating, or where the rest of the lions are calling from every now and then.
Our lions are still lying down, and a little while ago a small bird flew into a little pool of water down here at the bottom of this kind of depression, and some of the young lions started to show interest in it, and they tried to stalk towards it. Of course it flew away. Lions at this young age, like this youngster that's at the bottom of that rocky outcrop, not quite developed the stalking skills needed to catch prey just yet. So still a lot of practicing for them to do, and they'll practice that on things like birds and tortoises and hares and pretty much any animal they can find. But now calm has been restored. They're all lying down and resting once again. When you're a lion and you've got a full tummy, not too much for you to do. There's lots of time to rest and digest all of that meat. And when we saw them yesterday, oh, here we go. I thought he was going to get up and head down to the water again. There appears to be a bit more action down there, which is where he's looking. We have a question from one of our 10-cent viewers. You're asking if we take any protective measures against animals when they are higher up than we are, like this. No, we do not. So, like I said, the animals here have all come to recognize that the vehicle is no threat to them. And so as long as we're in a vehicle, there's no need for us to take any protective measures against, or at least against these lions, because they kind of, or most of the animals out here just ignore us whilst we're driving around. That lioness now up on top of the rock, starting to look more and more sleepy. And I'm sure that as the sun starts to rise higher and higher, it's eventually going to peak over the mountain that's off to our left, and these rocks will be bathed in sunlight, and then these lions will have a lovely warm rock to lie and rest on.
Good morning from a beautiful day in the Kalahari at Tswalu. My name's Dylan. It's fantastic having you with us, to all our regular viewers, and especially a big welcome to all our 10-cent viewers. It's wonderful having you with. Please feel free to comment, or if you've got any other questions, you can also use the Wild Earth hashtag. It's going to be a fantastic morning out here. Let's go out, see what we can find, and just enjoy this journey with us. This magnificent sociable weaver nest we've got here. These are the largest nests of any bird in the world, of any social bird in the world. These are the biggest nests. And in a colony like this, we can have, this size, you're probably looking at about 60 or 70 different pairs of birds, and they're tiny little birds. They're very small, but there's some of them coming out here now, and I can hear them a lot calling over here. So they as a community, they start designing and building these massive nests. There's multiple chambers underneath. That's where you can see the birds are flying out now. And we get another very special bird that lives here, and we'll try and find it for you, called the Pygmy Falcon. It's a tiny, look at them all flying out here. It's the smallest falcon in Africa. It's a tiny little bird, and look at this, beautiful. And they actually also live inside these nests, which is very special, if we can see them. And of course, these nests, you can just imagine, with the amount of birds in them, these are very important for a lot of snake species that live here. One of the very beautiful and big snakes that we get here is called the Cape Cobra. And these nests are crucially important for those Cape Cobras in the summer season, with the amount of chicks that they'll be eating from these nests.
From one type of a nest to another, but this is for a slightly different creature. Can you see the web, the spider's web, the silk that is caught in this buffalo thorn tree? There's little bits of silk all about, and there's actually tiny little tents that are made by tropical tent web spiders, but the true nest is just a little lower. Now that nest there is made by a community nest spider, and these spiders live all together. Nests could have 100 spiders, maybe more, maybe less. Many of them just live in there. Now, with all the moisture around, a few of those silky strands that have come off, that usually anchor this nest into this buffalo thorn, have actually been weighed down. So it usually is a little bit more silky, but you can see that that central nest bit is still very intact. Now, if we look just at this image, on the top left, there is a very good example of the tropical tent web spider's web. It's just to the left. There we go. It's a very little one, but it looks almost like a net or like a tent. There you go, and those are very, very tiny. Now, these spiders will use a similar tree and a similar area because sometimes there's a good reason for that. Perhaps it's bare enough, as you can see, for many insects to be caught in their web. And those webs, or the bits of silk that are actually coming up and joining it to the tree, those bits are not sticky. So insects would fly in, hit that, and then fall into that sticky web at the bottom. Awesome, awesome webs in this golden sunlight.
Well, what a beautiful morning, and we have found a couple of birds on the floor. There was a couple of hornbills before that were busy eating, I think, termites or ants. And now we've got a couple crowned lapwings out here. These guys like to spend time out in the open. These short grassland areas, walking around, picking up insects as they go. They really are quite a pretty bird, aren't they? See that little cap that they have on their head there? And their wonderfully pink legs that match their beak. Oh, here comes the hornbill. Oopsie. Hornbill to the right because just chased away the lapwing. There we go. There's definitely a food source here. And the hornbill's busy picking up. This looks like the southern red-billed hornbill. He's picking it up like peanuts, throwing it back into the mouth. Wonderful to find these little bird parties. They like to hang out together because of the pressure, not the pressure, but the potential predation. Just like that herd of wildebeest hangs out together because they want to protect themselves individually against lions. These birds hang out as a group so as to maximize the food resources and then also to protect themselves against predatory birds. Megan, you think they're very smart looking birds. Well, they are indeed. They look like they got a little cap on their head. It's like they're at business school or university or something like that. There's the hornbill in the open on the right now. BK is really nicely in the open. See if we can see what he's actually picking up. There's many ants out in these open areas and termites early in the morning that the bird picks up to eat, and the way he's picking it up like that is a very good indication that it's a small insect. He's sifting through, trying to get some more. And while he's enjoying his breakfast,
so these weaver nests are absolutely remarkable structures. One of the challenges with a nest that gets so big is the weight of the nest. Now, obviously, the nest, it can only expand to the point that the branches are still able to support the weight. If the branches on the tree cannot support the weight of the nest anymore, those branches break, and then the weavers will have to start again if they're still suitable sites. And, you know, we can actually see a number of these branches lying at the base of the tree that have actually been broken off. So Tencent has asked, are there usually big snakes in these nests? And the answer is yes and no. Some of these nests, they lose up to 70% of their chicks in a season to predation by snakes. Now, you know, these snakes could be that long and they could be 2 meters long, you know, depending on whether it's a youngster or an adult. So these nests are very, very important for the snakes, and obviously it's a challenge for the birds to get enough chicks out every season. And normally you find a species that's producing a lot of youngsters, like these birds, and there's big numbers nesting together. That's normally as a response to predation, or helps reduce predation in cases. You can imagine if they were just by themselves, this predation may be a lot higher.
You've joined us at just the right time, everyone. These lions have started to play. Look at them. They're running. Look at that. Oh, shame. So that was the old lioness that tried to... Oh, second time lucky. The old lioness that tried to jump up that rock. Obviously just a little bit cold and the muscles not working properly just yet. And then the two young lions at the bottom, circling like sharks, obviously chasing that older lioness around, playing with her. She doesn't seem to be in the mood for their games at the time being. For the last little while, these two young lionesses have been running around, chasing each other, pouncing on each other, stalking each other. Oh, look, there's a lioness who's going to come up on the rock there on the left. What has she seen? She's looking at something. Look at how her ears are pricked forward. We can see the black spots behind the backs of her ears, helping us to see which way she's looking. I wonder if maybe one of her siblings isn't running around. Oh, here they come. Big game. Tomato, you're asking how long does it take for a lion to grow up? To be like Simba, you say? So, Tomato, for a male lion, when he gets to about 5 years old, is when he's going to be strong enough to take over a pride, like Simba did. And when he's about 7 years old, Tomato, is when he'll be fully grown in terms of his physical size and in terms of his mane as well. From about 7 is when things will go downhill, so to speak. That's when he's going to be at his biggest, will be when he's about 7. So we were justly rewarded there, I think, for our patience with that bit of playfulness, and we're going to wait here for a bit more of it.
Oh, and indeed, Damon, they are playful. It's also so cool because it's so cold. You just see the breath come out of them, and then being backlit by the sun. I mean, how amazing is that view? The white male joining him now, her. They are just going to explore. Now there's a third youngster coming to join them. Very playful. Only what I might try to do is turn around. Seems like most of the action is where these youngsters are. So on a female and another youngster just lying there watching all of it. But so we're discussing it a little bit, saying, they've gone up the bank, saying that whatever they killed, you know, it might have been a small zebra or wildebeest or an impala, because we heard them calling at 5:15, which means after that they would have started walking and then hunted and then finished off the entire carcass. They've gone up now. So whatever they killed, I can imagine that the entire carcass is now done. In the rain, here comes more youngsters, playful on the right hand side, so I'm going to go back to our original position. In the rain has asked, can we see lion cubs where we are? And absolutely, in the rain, we've got, from this pride, there's a lioness that gave birth about, not even 3 months ago. So her cubs are here somewhere. Odie, does that work for those? So we were actually hoping that the rest of this pride, the Birmingham pride, would have linked up with that lioness and we'd be able to see her 2 cubs again. But so far, no luck yet. But, you know, it's still very early. You never know. She might just be around here as well. Might be around that carcass. So we haven't seen the whole Birmingham pride come out yet. There's more coming from the side. So yeah, we haven't seen the whole Birmingham pride come out just yet, but hopefully they will as it warms up.
Thanks, Rowan. Well, last night we had a male lion on the property. Big male lion. And he walked here. Now you might ask, how do I know it's a big male lion? When did he see this track? Now, the best thing to do when you find a track like this one is to measure it. Now, this knife of mine is 10 centimeters. Okay, here is the back. Here's the back of the track over there. There's the pad. There's 3 lobes. The back pad. And then there's the toes. 1 toe, 2 toes, 3 toes, 4 toes. That is a very big foot. Now, look at the size of it compared to my hand. That is a male lion foot. Now, you want to try and know which one, right or left. How do we know if it's right or left? The best way to do it is to take your hand on the ground and measure which one, because the longest toe is this one here. Now, that's the same as on your hand as your middle finger. So if I put my right hand here, it's not. See, the longest toe would be that one. So, longest toe. Yes, there we go. This is left foot. It's very big, isn't it? There's a left foot. And you can also see in a male lion how the track over here, the toe is wider compared to the back of the pad because of all the weight on the shoulders. And I'm sure you've seen some lions before. If you haven't, we'll send you back over to some.
They are very playful. One by one, all of the Birmingham pride is coming down into the river, which does mean the entire carcass is done. So those 2 are the 2 sisters. So that's the little white lioness and her tawny sister that just came out. And like I said, very playful. It's so funny to see that all the youngsters are venturing through the Timbavati riverbed and onto the southern bank. And then the 2 lionesses are just on the northern bank watching them. But very playful. So, of course, I get this question a lot. Why the Birmingham pride? Who called them Birmingham? And it's just because the Birmingham pride came from the property Birmingham, which is right next door to us. I think the first time they were seen here was in 2010. So we've basically been following this pride now for 10 years. Oh, there goes the little tawny youngster again. She's also wanting to cross the river. So her sister might just follow her. Actually see the pink or the blood on the little white lioness. They want to go looking for the rest of the youngsters because they want to play some more, especially this little tawny one. You can see one of the adult lionesses coming out in front. It's going to be tackled by... Ooh, brave. See the size difference there? It's a very large lioness. Softly calling. But so playful. Let me get my head out here. So Just Alive is saying this is so cute. Here's the young Birmingham or the young male limping along. You can see blood on his forearm as well. Definitely had a piece of that carcass. So Just Alive, this is indeed very cute. Having them play all over is just magnificent. And that's the thing, finding lions early in the morning when it's so cold is always just, it's the best time. Okay, so the older lioness has been... here comes the other lioness as well. So they're definitely all going to the southern side. Ruby asking who was in charge of the Birmingham Pride before the Ross males. Ruby, the territorial males over the Birmingham Pride before the Ross. Oh, the young male wants to play. You can see he's going into that stalk mode as well, so he might just tackle her from the other side of the bush. See what happens. Ruby, we just caught... Yeah, here he goes. Not too much playing there. She doesn't want to play with him. So Ruby, we just called them the Western males. It was 4 brothers that used to be territorial over the Birmingham Pride. Very, very beautiful big males. And of course, they were the fathers of this young male that's looking at us right now. Which is why the Ross males have been trying to kick him out. Trying to move him away from this area. The size and the age where he is now, he's starting to be competition for the 2 Ross males. Which is why they don't want him around anymore. You could see also he was trying to still play with that lioness, and the lioness was just not in a playful mood, especially with someone, well, with him, because he's so big. I think we might lose our lions very soon. I can't see more coming from the right hand side, from the northern bank, so we're going to have to loop around to the southern side and see if we can find them again.
We're still with our lions, and they're all now busy relaxing, each one with their own rock, it seems. So as we pan the camera across all the different lions enjoying their prominent perches, I'd love to hear from you which pose of these lions you like better. The one on the far left, he's got his legs out to the side and his chin resting on the rock, or perhaps the one on the far right, lying like a sphinx almost. But from probably the pride that Ngala has been filming most often, as Rowan told you, called the Birmingham Pride because of the area that they come from. Just like at Ngala, we also have the prides of lions named after the regions that they're from. And this area, look at how mountainous and hilly it is all around us. And so for that reason, we refer to this pride of lions as the Mountain Pride. And their territory is probably about 1/3 of our entire area, so about 9,000 hectares. And it consists of 4 adult lionesses and 4 sub-adult lions, so lions that are kind of, I suppose you could call them teenagers. And then there are 5 very small little cubs. But now, for the time being, we can only see 5 or 6 of them at the moment. The reason for that is that the other 2 adult lionesses, the ones that are the mothers of the 5 small cubs, are not with these lions at the moment. Because those little cubs are still very small, those mothers have felt that it's too dangerous for them to bring their little ones into this pride. The reason being, these sub-adult or teenage lions, if they meet those small cubs, they want to play with them, and for lions, play can get quite rough, and little cubs might get easily hurt. But we're hoping that sometime in the near future, those mothers will bring their 5 small cubs to join up with the rest of the pride, and we'll have them all together.
So for those of you who haven't yet met Melanie, or sometimes we call it Mel Gibson, depending, this is actually the second version. She's been with us on all of our game drives so far, at least for the past 4 weeks. And we keep adding to it as the temperature got colder. We gave her a little beanie and that. But what's interesting about this is a fruit. So we just made a little Halloween thing out of the fruit there. This fruit is a fantastic source of water and nutrients for animals out in the Kalahari. There are records, although we haven't seen those densities on Tswalu before, but there are records of up to 10,000 of these fruits per hectare that have been recorded in some areas. Super high water content. The seeds are very, very nutritious, and obviously, you know, with such a hard fruit, you know, these things can last way into the dry season. So it's actually it's a creeper. So the plant grows flat on the ground. Unfortunately, all the vines are gone now at this time of year, but you can tons of these. And Kelly has just commented how much like a watermelon it looks like, and this is actually a kind of watermelon. It's kind of wild watermelon. Here we call it a sama melon. That's the well-known term for it. But yes, it is a watermelon, and in fact, some of them actually taste remarkably like watermelons. Not as sweet, but certainly the flesh and everything's the same. But it's a white flesh inside. It's not a pink flesh. But very, very important in certain areas of Kalahari for game going into the winter.
We are just too lucky this morning. You are looking at our hyenas, and they are actually at a different den. So they've moved from their previous den. Hyenas live, or rather the youngsters need a den when they're growing up. I'm just hearing alarm calls nearby. But the hyenas don't seem to worry too much. Perhaps it is another hyena. So when a hyena mums need to give birth and raise their young, they need to find a den. Now these two have been living in a den that's not too far from us for the first few months. So they're about 3 months old at the moment. The first time we saw them was at the end of March. And now they've moved to another den that this clan, we call this clan the Juma Clan, has used in the past. Look at this little one, so curious. Now that's Mum next to this little cub. Her name is Ribbon, and this is her third litter. You can see that Ribbon looks a little different to the cubs, and that's because Ribbon is all spotty because she's an adult. But her cubs are still pretty black, and they're usually born actually fully black, and by the time they're about 3 months, as they are now, they start to get quite spotty. So they'll have a little bit of black still on them, but you'll find that on their legs and on their necks, they're starting to get spotty. Now this other hyena that's here, that the little cub is playing with, that is Sutu. We actually introduced you to Sutu last week. And Sutu is from a different litter, from a different female. Her name is June. We haven't seen her in a while. So Sutu is about 1.5 years now. Hello. And hangs around with these cubs at this den quite a lot as a playmate. This is just awesome. So I'm going to spend this morning here with these wonderful iron hyenas, and please send us any questions about them because they are awesome.
We're still here and still waiting for the sun to come up over the mountain and bathe our lions in some beautiful golden light. And I think as much as we are looking forward to that, these lions are too. Have a look at those 2 lionesses up on their little rocky spire. Look at how closely together they're lying to each other. I remember earlier I was saying how important the bonds are between lions in a pride. And I think this is a perfect illustration of this. Look at how these two lionesses are lying huddled up together to keep each other warm against this chilly breeze that's blowing over us. Peter, you're asking if these are volcanic rocks. Peter, well noticed, they are indeed. So a lot of this area, much of the land formations here do come from volcanic activity millions of years ago. And this particular area does show quite a few volcanic rocks. Quite a pretty portrait now that those two lionesses are giving us, both of them looking over their shoulders at us. Shame, look at how that lioness on the left is curled up. She's got her tail wrapped around her body, trying to keep warm. Oh, there's sunlight that's starting to creep onto our right-hand side. I think it's just a matter of time before that light reaches these lions. This light is on its way, and I think once it does bathe these lions, it's going to be a beautiful picture.
I bet it will be absolutely gorgeous, but we are looking at a nest in a tree with lots and lots of thorns on it. I'll tell you what it is in a minute. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Gert, and we are bringing you this live African safari from a place called Pridelands, which is part of Baluli Game Reserve in the Greater Kruger National Park. We're not actually very far away from Ngala at all, but shall we have a closer look at this bird's nest? Now, you're probably wondering, why on earth would a bird build its nest in all the thorns? Well, the bird that has made this nest is called a blue waxbill, and it is very, very small. So you can imagine there are lots and lots of other raptors, other birds of prey, that would want to eat a bird that tiny. So they can't really defend themselves very well. So they've made their nest, which is made almost exclusively of blue seed grass. So you can see it's very soft and sort of quite spongy. And they will build them in trees with lots of thorns and spines on. Now, the thorns on this particular tree, it's a flaky bark acacia tree, are very, very sharp and would keep any raptors that like to eat small birds, so like the African hawk eagles and any of the sparrowhawks and goshawks and things like that, will keep them away from this nest, and they won't be able to come searching inside here. But also to be maybe difficult for things like snakes to also try and get into this nest, because inside there you can see there's a little hole just in the top, that sort of dark center. That's actually the entrance of the nest, and then down in the bottom is where the chicks will be. But it's really, really amazing. Now I want to show you a picture very quickly of what a blue waxbill looks like, just so that you can see how tiny they and really small they are. So I've just pulled out a book very quickly, and I'm going to try and get some nice light onto the picture. We're looking at this one over here. That is the teeny tiny birds that we're talking about. And they're quite sociable, so you normally see them flying around in flocks. But there's a picture of a male and a female. Maybe we'll be lucky enough to see one or two of them. But why we really came searching in this area is for elephants, for Africa's grey giants. And just as you came live to us, there was one calling now. So before we move off, Bunny, you've got a question about those little blue waxbills. No, they won't nest on the ground. They'll nest up in trees like this, like the thorn trees that you can see. So if they nest too close to the ground, then even smaller cat species like servals or caracal or anything really, or African wildcats, which we see quite a few of, they could also then eat those birds. So it's important that they make their nest just high enough off the ground, and then in this very thorny vegetation. But we'll keep looking for them. But I'm going to follow up on the rumbles that I heard in the distance, and hopefully we'll find some elephants soon.
So, just to give viewers some kind of idea of the longevity of these nests, how old they get. This particular nest that we're looking at here, when I started working at Tswalu 15 years ago, just over 15 years ago, this nest looked pretty much exactly as it looks now. There's one or two little pieces that have fallen off. But you can imagine this, for sociable weavers, this nest is very, very, very average in size, and it's really limited by this small, scraggly little tree that it's on. We have nests of Tswalu that are at least 10 times the size of this nest. So you can just imagine the ages of these. One of our colleagues was talking about ground nesting birds and trees, and on Tswalu we get a lot of birds that nest on the ground as well, from ostriches through to sandgrouse, larks, pipits, those kind of things. But there's pros and cons to both of these strategies. Obviously, if you're nesting on the ground, you are very, very exposed to predation in many aspects. Snakes can get to you, wildcats, jennets, things like those. And that's, I would imagine that's why you don't normally get too many ground nesting birds that'll nest in big colonies. In fact, very, very few, unless it's island-based birds. A lot of your seabirds do. But out in this environment that we're in, the ground nesting birds that we get here are always nesting solitary. So the advantage of that is that it becomes very, very, very difficult, or hopefully, for a predator to actually locate your nest and feed on it. Amber's just commented that these nests, it looks like a thatched roof, in other words, a grass roof, and you couldn't be more correct. That is exactly what this is. And in fact, the amazing thing is it's actually got quite a remarkable ability to drain water off it. Obviously, a lot of water does filter in if you get heavy rain, but still the majority of that water will actually move around the outside. And but still, you can imagine after a good shower of rain, how heavy these nests actually become. And that's what that means for the tree, is that you start getting big branches being broken off. As the nest gets too heavy for the branches, they start breaking off.
Now these two little ones are getting very spunky, are all over the place, running about, getting very, very adventurous, and that's what we like to see. Now we're chatting a little bit about animal homes and nests and why animals live the places they do. Well, hyenas use termite mounds as their dens, and inside of that den there'll be a network of tunnels that are actually excavated by the cubs. So the opening of the tunnel will be dug out by mum, and then she'll kind of plonk herself bottom in and give birth into the den, and then any additional workings the cubs will do themselves inside. They have strong blunt claws, and only the cubs can fit inside them, so the adults can't go into this den. And that's important because it means that any predators can't get in either. Now, nothing really preys on spotted hyenas, but if other predators that fill the same niche as hyenas do, as apex predators, they will reduce competition, but by killing the cubs of each other between the lions and leopards and hyenas. So they've got to be very, very careful. That's why this den is so important.
So we've caught up with some of the pride. All the youngsters now, so they crossed the river onto the southern bank, walked on the road for a little bit, and then came back into the river. So what you have here is two lionesses coming towards us, and then the young male further behind them. So all the youngsters have already run past, and they just keep calling and calling and calling, almost as each other. And you can actually hear this lioness contact calling as well. But it's funny, it's like the youngsters are leading the charge. Yeah. See how easy it is for them to just get up that bank. That's magnificent, hey? Well, they haven't made the morning easy. So now we have to go around again to the other side and try catch up once more. And this is exactly where they came from last night. So I think what we might do with the young male still behind them. Arkwind asking, we're both white lions from the same litter. So no, Arkwind. The one white lion, the male, is older by about 6 months. About half a year older than the little lioness. I am going to have to leave this young male. If we stand any chance of catching up with this pride when they're running away, we're going to have to go around to the other side. He's a little bit slower, but he'll be better at tracking the pride. If you watched yesterday with Barney, he tracked the pride down by following the young male. So I think what we'll do is we'll try loop around as quickly as possible and see if we can find either him on the other side, because it will take us about 5 minutes, or the rest of the pride on the other side. So we're going to try that.
Look, we've managed to find the elephants. We sat and listened. We heard the branches breaking, which led us straight to these wonderful creatures. And it's a whole herd of elephants, which is even better. You might also be able to hear a hornbill just chirping in the distance. That is a bird. But you'll be hearing all sorts of interesting sounds while you are live with us. Isn't that awesome? So these elephants that I can see right now, it looks like just the bulls. Oh, there we go. I heard a very noisy sound coming from the distance. It sounded like a young elephant calf trumpeting. So that means that the rest of the herd is down at just behind these elephants. So like I was saying, these are the bulls. These are the young males that aren't quite accepted in the herd anymore. They're not really tolerated. And they're also growing independent, so they want to spend a bit more time on their own. So they've joined up together and normally hang around just on the tail end of the herd. But I know what these elephants are going to do, because they do the same thing every single day, especially because there isn't much water around, is that they're going to go down to a dam called Ndlovu Dam to have a drink. Hello, boy. Well, this young elephant bull is approaching us. You can see he's smelling us now. Andrea, I'm so glad that elephants are your favorite. They are my favorite animal too. And I try and spend at least a few hours with them every single day. I think I'm very lucky to be able to say that I can do that. So with the young elephant bulls, they are very curious animals. They're not afraid of the vehicles, as you saw, and quite often come right up close. But you can see he's very relaxed with us. And he's eating. He's actually eating a similar species of tree that we saw that bird's nest in. Now look at that. You saw how sharp those thorns are. Watch how this elephant just completely crunches straight through them as if they weren't prickly at all. Bet you can hear him chewing as well. Hey, hello. So you said summer is coming, perhaps where you are in the world, but unfortunately winter is well on its way here in South Africa, so it's actually been very chilly. I'm sure you've seen how all the safari guides this morning are dressed up with scarves and beanies and gloves and lots of jackets. And also you can tell that it's winter in this area because of how dry the vegetation is. So we don't get a winter rainfall, we actually get a summer rainfall. So elephants also don't have a specific mating season. They kind of breed whenever a female is coming into estrus, so they can give birth throughout the entire year. But ideally, you want to give birth in our summer, in the rainy season, because that's when the vegetation is at its most lush. At this time of the year, it wouldn't be, I don't think the females would be able to produce as much milk if you are a herbivore, or as nutritious milk, because you're not getting as many nutrients as you would when the vegetation is nice and green. But the elephants will continue to eat and continue to feed all day long as they do. This is pretty much the activity that they are constantly doing. Hey, big boy. He's very kind that he's giving us such a close view this morning. You can see he just turns and he watches us while he eats. I think he's also enjoying the warmth of the sun on his back. Wait. Now, we were just talking about how thorny that tree was that the elephant is eating. So, no, Megan, at this age, this elephant is not too perturbed by the prickles. It's basically like, I always like to describe it, if you are a landscaper and you are constantly working in gardens and you are handling vegetation all the time, or you're digging with a spade, or, you're touching the soil, your hands become quite tough and quite used to it. Whereas if you are maybe, say, working as a baker, for example, your hands, I don't think, would be as tough as somebody who's working outside. And the same thing goes for an elephant's mouth. Over time, their skin starts to toughen up, and they're able to sort of withstand some of these prickles. A young elephant might not be eating this tree as aggressively or as quickly. It might put the vegetation in its mouth a little bit slowly, because, yes, those sharp prickles will definitely annoy the inside of its mouth. But you can see, look at that. Completely just crushing down and using its tongue to push the food back towards the molars, and then it will grind all those thorns down.
Beautiful. I love elephants too. Some of my favorite experiences out here in the bush are with elephants. Another big favorite of mine are these guys right here, spotted hyenas. How wonderful that they can be so comfortable with us, that they allow us to sit here with their youngsters. Not 20 meters. Chrissy, you have a really important question. You'd like to know, why do lions lose their spots as they get older, but hyenas gain spots as they get older? Well, lions, it's actually for a similar reason. Lions, when they're little, or when any animal is little, they're most vulnerable. And the more disruption they have in their coloration, the better it is for them. Now, lions are out in the open where after a few weeks of being in the den, and that's when they have these spots on their bellies. And some adults and sub-adults will still maintain those spots. And that helps them to camouflage in the grass as they move about in the pride, or with the pride. Now, with spotted hyenas, it's a different way of protecting youngsters when they're vulnerable. Now, we know that spotted hyenas live in the den when they're tiny, and the den is dark. So if they are dark, it means that anything that happens to make its way into the den, even though they'll try really hard to make sure that nothing can enter the den, if something does, these guys will be very difficult to see, because they themselves will be dark. And then they will finally get their adult pelage, which is their coat. Really, really interesting creatures, spotted hyenas.
You can see all the dust that has been stirred up and one elephant backing away from the other. That's because these young bulls have been having a tussle with one another. And and hopefully they'll resume in a minute so you can just get a glimpse of how strong these animals really are. And they're just going around the corner, so I'm going to move forward and catch up with them. Now, remember how I was just saying how the young elephant bulls, they like to hang around together. And of course, as boys do, they like to wrestle a little bit too. So all this is very important for their development. So I'm going to try and get a closer look. But hello, boys. We're just going very slowly through the herd of elephants, and they're very relaxed with us. There's one just here. Hello, boy. No, relax. He's fine. He's just feeding. Maybe he'll go and join in on the battle. They've just gone around the corner. Okay, let me start again, Chad. Sorry. They're very determined to push one another. Now they've gone off the road. Okay, I think we should get a view. This is exciting. Okay, here the two are. Just going to roll down a little bit further. Here we go. Now we will see if they start to butt heads once more. They've paused for a moment. There we go. I don't know what one has done to upset the other one, that they need to pick on each other. But like I said, this is very important for the development of elephants, and they need to practice. Just going behind the trees. Can you hear all those branches breaking? So that's just that elephant reversing. And they've got such tough skin that bashing through all those branches really doesn't bother them too much. Chris, this is fantastic practice. And again, this is not a serious fight. Look at him. He's trying to make himself seem much bigger and stronger, and that's why he's pushing against all those trees. He's trying to show, look how aggressive I am. And now he's charging forward. It's difficult to get a view through all these trees. I'm very sorry. Let me go forward for you, Kat. I think I can get a better gap. But they're going round and round in circles currently. Maybe they're going to come out on the road. So I think what I'm going to do in preparation is just turn sideways. Right, let's have a look at them very quickly. There they are. The chase continues, and we'll sit here and wait for them to start fighting.
We've managed to catch up with, well, some of the pride again. Still vocal. And so here, what you can see is one of the youngsters. And in the background, impalas, just watching in this direction. So, of course, I think a lot of you are wondering, why aren't the lions going for the impalas? But lions are essentially ambush predators. So, being in a massive open clearing like this, all the impalas would have seen the lions already. So they've lost the element of surprise. So the lions won't be trying to stalk impalas, especially through a very big, massive open clearing like this. They need more cover, or darkness for that matter. So this young lion was watching the impala for a little while, and the impala was watching the lion. But now, as you can see, the impalas are moving off to the left. And essentially all the lions are probably going to fall asleep somewhere in the clearing. So the rest of the pride is actually just to the right of this youngster. You know, some in shade, some in sun, some still warming up. Oh, can hear a zebra alarm calling in the distance. 10-cent viewer has asked, how long do lions live for? 10-cent viewer, you know, it's females tend to live longer than males. I think the oldest lioness we had was about 17 or 18 years. Usually it's only for up to roughly 15 years. And the males, they don't last that long, maybe 11 or 12, just because the males tend to fight with each other quite a bit to take over territories, to take over prides. So they don't live as long. They often kill each other or injure each other very badly, or they don't have the safety of the pride anymore and they struggle to hunt for themselves if another male takes over their territory. So the males essentially live for a shorter while than the females do. So for males, maybe 11, 12 years old, females 15 to 18. So we're going to maybe just loop around here, see what the rest of the pride is up to, see if they are warming up nicely in the sun.
I am super excited about this. These little meerkats, we've been trying to find them for about the past 5 days already, and we finally managed to get them thanks to the help of Veronique, one of our meerkat habituators. So she's been keeping tabs on these animals, and what is so exciting, the one that Jandra has in frame has just had pups about 2 days ago, or maybe even only yesterday sometime. So this is super exciting. The name of this group is called the Rockstar Meerkats, and that is due to the area that they're living in. There's a particular rock at a crossroads over here, and that's where they get their name from, Rockstar Junction. So this is really, really, really fun and exciting that we found these animals. What this means, now that she's had pups here, is she's not going to go anywhere for a couple of weeks now. These little ones are going to be staying underground for at least 2 weeks. Sometimes they'll come out a little bit sooner, but normally about 2 weeks. And they're going to hang around this burrow system for a number of weeks after that, which means that we'll be able to return here on a regular basis and just see how the group does. Of course, the really exciting part is when the youngsters are actually brought out for the first time. Anna Marie has just commented, what a rock star mother, and absolutely. And you know what, Anna Marie, I think any mother is a rock star mother. For those of you who got any questions, please post them there in the comment section, or you can use the Wild Earth hashtag as well. But feel free to ask us questions about these animals. It's really, really absolute pleasure trying to answer them if we can. If we can't, we'll find out what the answer is. So, interestingly, this group of meerkats is another group that stays just to our right over here, which is our north, to the north of us, and us as well. And they also had pups recently, but there was a honey badger, this beautiful black and white animal about that size, that actually managed to break into those burrow systems, and we're pretty sure he managed to eat those pups and 2 of the other youngsters. So that was quite sad. But that group is actually still going strong. We are keeping tabs on it. But we just thought now, while this female's just had her pups, this is going to be a fantastic thing to start following. We're just going to spend some more time over here, and we're just going to sit quietly. This habituation process, just spending time with them, and you can see they are relaxed, is absolutely invaluable. And this is how you start seeing really, really, really interesting behavior. So it's totally worth it.
That is awesome. It certainly is. The more time you spend with animals, the more interesting behavior you get to watch. As with these 2 little ones, now they're doing lots of cub things. They're using their teeth to bite. Every bush is a problem nearby. And they're also anal pasting. Now that's what this little one might be doing just now. It's going to go over that bit of grass. They actually have glands on the inside of their anus that they push out with a pasty substance, and that's how they mark their territory. And they'll start practicing this when they're very, very young. And as hyenas from the clan move around, or from other clans, they'll be able to smell that, and from that be able to pick up lots of information about the hyenas in this area. These little guys are born with their canines and incisors. Add to taste, you'd like to know when these cubs will graduate to living outside of the den. By about 6 months old, they start spending a lot of time outside of the den, but they still do seek out the safety of a den. And at that point, they'll actually start digging for themselves. But they will always remain part of the clan, although males will migrate out. Hello, little one, you're coming quite close. Hello, sweetheart. Isn't that just awesome? They're very, very, very curious creatures. And these little ones, just like this older one, Sutu, they come and bite the tires, and sometimes they'll even try to bite your shoes. Hello. You are just too cute. They're about 2 meters from the vehicle at the moment. And this is exactly what Dylan was speaking to you about. The more you spend time with these animals, the more use they get to you. And they feel quite comfortable to come very close, sometimes too close. And these little ones are still quite young, but in a month, not even, maybe 2 weeks, they'll be under the vehicle, trying to bite tires, trying to get your shoelaces. And that's when you have to be a little bit strict with them and say, no, no, too close. But this is just a precious, precious moment. Stefan, you'd like to know, why don't hyena cubs use their paws in the way that lions do to play with each other? They sometimes do, but remember, they're not cats. Cats are, or typically use their paws to swat. Hyenas don't. Hyenas' strength lie in their strong jaws, their teeth, and their heavy, heavy heads. A hyena's head, skull, can weigh the same as a lion. So they need, that is their biggest kind of advantage. So they use a lot more of their teeth, jaws, and heads, and you'll see that they jump around quite a bit to get that gait going, because hyenas can run for quite a long distance. So lions fall into felidae, so they're felines. Wild dogs, canidae, they're canids. But hyenas have their own special group, Hyenidae. So they are feliformia, so they're cat-like, but they are not cats. And cats particularly will swat. Very, very interesting behaviors, and we'll continue to chat about them.
So here are a few cats. Well, sleepy cats. Now, you can see some of them are grooming themselves. Those two in the back, they have been grooming one another. Of course, re-establishing that bond, showing that love. I think, let's see what this white lioness does. Maybe also going in for a groom session. There we go. Also wants to be cleaned. So, of course, this is, it re-establishes that bond, that social dynamics within a lion pride. But also, they're all getting a little bit more extra blood. They can clean off the others. So it's been quite strange. While we've been sitting here, we have no idea why the youngsters all ran here. They were all calling and running in this direction. But then just lay down. Like there was nothing here. We were hoping that maybe the lioness is here with the two cubs, and they were going to join up with her. But then when we got here, there's no sign of the lioness, only a bunch of impala, and that's it. You can see some of them have chosen to lie down in shade, and then some in the sun. This female's just enjoying the sun for now, rolling over like that. But I think they've found their spot for the day. As you can see, we don't have the whole of the Birmingham Pride here, only some of it. Bunny asking, when, if ever, will the males be driven out of this pride? So this usually happens at the age of 3 years old, maybe 2.5 to 3 years old. So either by their fathers or the newly territorial males that could take over from the Ross males. They'll drive them out. So they've still just got over a year left, these young males. But the other one here, the bigger one with his leg up in the air like that, he should have been gone a long time ago. About a year ago now. But sadly, Bunny, what happened to him, you know, he was born into 2 different litters. There were 9 cubs in total. And his brothers died. Some of his sisters died. So it's only him and 1 sister left. And she's the one that's now got the new cubs, which we haven't seen in quite some time. But otherwise, he would have formed a coalition with his brothers, you know, if they didn't die. So, sorry, all of them died of mange a couple of years ago. Quite a bad time. We went through quite a bad drought, and all of them suffered. But yeah, so the rest of these, hopefully, at the age of 3, but luckily for them, there are 3 males here. 3 of these youngsters are males, and they'll be able to move off together as a coalition.
So what they're doing now is they're sunning themselves. So because they're such small little animals, and for those of you who've been with us before, you would have seen this, and it's nice to just go through it again as a reminder. On an animal this size, and not just with meerkats, but a lot of small mammals, they've got such a large skin surface area relative to the body size, relative to the body mass. What that means is that they lose heat very, very quickly. And if that core temperature drops below a certain temperature, they can actually die. They get hypothermia and they can die. So maintaining that body heat is absolutely critical to their survival. That goes for any organism, doesn't matter what it is. But these little animals are particularly susceptible to it. And that's why they'll stay underground in very, very cold weather. Today is actually quite mild. There's a bit of a breeze blowing. The sand is quite cool, but it's a very mild morning for winter. But at night, the temperature now can be dropping to -4, -5 degrees, which is cold by any standards. And but then at that stage, they're deep down these burrows, huddling together for warmth. And in the mornings, when they get up before they go foraging, and meerkats, incidentally, are eating a lot of insects. They'll be digging out scorpions. They'll be digging out geckos. You know, these little lizards that hide in the sand. So they've got a wide range of prey items that they'll go for. But in the mornings, before they head out foraging, they'll stand up on these burrows like this. Later, we'll move across and we'll try to get some shots from the front where you can actually see the belly and the chest and the stomach are very, very grey, very sparsely furred, and that means that they can actually get nice heat from the sun very, very quickly. Francisco is saying, the meerkats are saying to me, "Why are you outside my house?" And that's probably exactly what they're thinking. So the beauty of these meerkats is that we've been working with them for so long. You know, Veronique, Rebecca, our meerkat habituators, they spend so much time with these animals that they just become so used to our presence. Obviously, I'm sitting at about, to give you some idea, yeah? I'm sitting at about 15 yards away from them. This one's super relaxed. This is the adult female in the group. This is the one that's just had the pups. With this wind and this slightly cooler air now, they're probably actually only going to start coming out a little bit later and start moving away foraging. So they're completely oblivious to us being here. For all intents and purposes, we're another object in the environment, another animal that's passing through. So we're not a threat to them. And in fact, if anything, they're probably like, okay, well, maybe there's a predator around, we can keep an eye open for them. So
It sounds like a beautiful morning over at Tswalu, but we're having the same thing. We're just still spending it with the elephants. And we're with the elephant that we've been watching pretty much all morning. He's been very entertaining, and he's been keeping very busy. He's just picked up a whole bunch of dead branches and thrown them around so that he can feast on some plants that were growing underneath it. What are you looking for? And I'm pretty sure elephants must get cravings for certain things, because sometimes you'll see them go after a very specific plant. Earlier he was feeding on an acacia species of tree, and now it looks like he's feeding on a little herb of sorts, maybe a hare's tail, which is a type of plant. Looks like that's what he's going after. You can see how he just kicks and moves all those dead branches out of his way. You see that, how he's searching for something specific. He's not just eating everything. He's looking for one type of plant. And all these different types of plants have got different medicinal values to them. And elephants are intelligent enough that they would definitely be able to know which plants they need to eat to help with certain ailments, or which ones have certain nutrients or minerals and vitamins that they need. You know, at this time of the year, their diet has to change up quite a bit because it is so dry. So we start to see them using their tusks a lot more as digging tools. We start to see them eating roots and start to see them eating the bark of the trees. Now, this is a great question from Tyler, and I don't know how to answer it. I love everything about elephants. There's nothing that I don't like. I think my favorite thing is how you can be in a sighting with them, and it feels like these animals are engaging with you. Now, of course, these are all wild animals, but they are habituated to the vehicles and to the sound of my voice, and they know that we do them no harm when we're in these cars. So after years and years of constantly interacting with them like this, they feel happy. And I bet that this elephant doesn't know a life without humans in vehicles. So I think, sorry, that's my stomach that's making those sounds. I sounded like an elephant. I don't know if we could pick them up. It must be breakfast time, all this talk of food. I think that's my favorite thing about them, is just sitting with them, and it feels like you're a part of the herd sometimes. But also they're always doing something. They're very busy creatures. They're never just fast asleep like big cats that they normally do sort of most of the day. So it's always fun to watch the elephants as they go.
And welcome back, everybody. We are at Chitwa watering hole, one of the largest areas largest dam water areas that we have in the area. And here is an African fish eagle, and as the name implies, it is a fish hunter. We just had them call a moment ago. Characteristic sound of Africa. If you've never heard it before, it is some hippos shouting in the background. Come on, he's going to call for us, I'm sure. What is of interest, though, is I've got some guinea fowls alarm calling behind me. Might be for this bird, but this is worth going to check out. So if you'll all bear with me, we'll come back to these birds. Guinea fowls at this time of day can be quite reliable when it comes to predator. And obviously, if they were close by to this fish eagle, I would expect them to be shouting at the fish eagle. But they're just over this side, a little bit further away. Okay, very good. We're going to try find these guinea fowl and send you back over to the cuteness that is with Trishala.
Awesome. Alarm calls are really important to follow up on. And I am going to do the same after this because I can hear them. high-pitched sounds. I'm going to be quiet so that you can actually listen to them, and you'll see Sutu's making a very low sound. That's Sutu anal pasting on that branch there. Iron Man, you say so amazing. It certainly is an Iron Man. If you have any more questions, please do pop it into the comment section. Because I love to talk about hyenas. The hyenas will lift their leg and erect their penis or pseudo-penis, the females have. And that's how they greet each other, and that's what was going on right there. Cubs are getting used to the greeting and getting to know the smells of the clan. Miss, you want to know why did Ribbon move her cubs to the den? It looks so different. She did move her cubs to this den, and it is about time that she did that. So the den that she was using, she used for about almost 3 months. About 3 months, end of March. And the cubs will actually start to, or the whole den will start to smell of the cubs, because the cubs would be urinating, defecating in and nearby the den. And that's not good, because that scent can attract predators. So they'll constantly move them about. Now, some hyenas will move them about more frequently. But Ribbon has stayed at that den for quite some time. So it was about time that she moved them. This is another den that she has used in the past for her previous litter as well, although briefly. With the previous litter, she moved them quite a few times. She moved them from the last den to this den to that den in the southeast. I love watching as they start to get that adult pelage. All spotty. And soon they'll be completely spotty. Very playful cubs. Well, I'm going to head off and have a gander at what those alarm calls were, but I'll send you over to something that was a little bit more playful. In fact, maybe as playful.
Right, so what has happened here? The little white lioness is actually trying to steal the other one's branch. So you can see the tawny one is actually cuddling with the branch. It's like she's picked this as her soft toy, and she's falling asleep with it, trying to keep ownership of it. And the little white lioness has been just trying to steal it from her grip, and she's doing quite well. Let's see, actually pushing the other one's paw away, trying to steal it back. Been quite a comical set of events, because the one went to a tree, broke off the branch, brought it back, and then made the other ones jealous. Then another one went, got a smaller branch, also brought it back, but then with that small branch in its mouth, gripped the bigger branch and the small branch both together and tried to steal the bigger branch. That's when the tawny one that's cuddling with the bigger branch actually got rather aggressive, and she tried to, keep it for herself. Now, the white lioness has been trying to steal it, but the other one's just not letting go. Looks like the white lioness has just given up now. Annette is commenting, how cool is that, Annette? I know. It's so cute watching them play with, you know, toys. Or their own natural toys. I guess it's just like any baby animal. They want to try keep themselves busy. So a little bit earlier we were sitting here and we could hear Impala's alarm calling from the direction where these lions came from. And we were hoping that the rest of the pride might come here. So we're missing the 2 Ross males and 2 large lionesses, as well as a youngster. Okay, one of the lionesses is getting up now. I think she's just moving further into shade, leaving the white male all to himself. So yeah, we're missing 2 large lionesses, 1 youngster, 2 Ross males, and then of course the lioness with both cubs we haven't seen either. So we're hoping that some of them might come from behind us and just come join the pride.
So the little meerkat that's just moved across here, it's facing me now. Okay, it's just turning. That's what I wanted. I actually wanted to face the sun towards you. No. She's just checking out. So this is the alpha female. This is the one that's just given birth. And a question that we get frequently is, how interconnected are these burrows? Where I'm sitting here, I've got a burrow right to my left. There's a little broken one down to the right. There's a number out further to my right, and then straight in front of us. And but not all of them are linked, and that's the thing. So if a predator comes in, you know, and predators for these little guys, I'm talking about ground predators specifically now. It could be African wildcats, could be a big monitor lizard. It's a huge lizard that get to that size, and they'll chase them down burrows, snakes, things like that. If the pups are down a particular burrow, these meerkats, when they're here, will obviously do their best to defend it. But the advantage of having multiple holes, multiple burrows like this, is that if a predator comes in, it can go down one, nothing. Go down another one, nothing. Go down another one, nothing. It can get lucky, of course. You know, it might go down the right burrow the first time and then get the pups. But in that case, I mean, especially on things like snakes, your smaller predators, these meerkats will go crazy and they'll do whatever they can to defend the nest against those predators and stop it going down there. There are things like honey badgers that we mentioned earlier that there's nothing that meerkats can do against predators like that. They will excavate these burrows to whatever depth they need to if they know that there's a good chance of finding a food item in there. In terms of this whole system here that we're seeing, it's very, very, very unlikely. In fact, I think it would be super unusual if these meerkats were actually responsible for creating all these burrows. It's more likely to have been things like what we call ground squirrels. It's these little squirrels. In fact, they're about the same size as a meerkat. They're herbivorous. They'll be eating little roots and grass shoots, things like that. They'll eat. I've seen them eating dead lizards, but that's very unusual. Anushka just asked if the pups are born blind. Yes, they are born blind, but they grow very, very, very quickly, and within 2 weeks they're going to be out and above ground. So these pups are helpless. They can't be moving by themselves. They cannot fend for themselves in any way. So if anything happened to the adults and the pups were by themselves, they wouldn't be able to fend. So that's what pups that are like that are called altrical. So they are totally reliant on the parents, on these adults, for survival in the first couple of weeks. As they grow older, then they'll start coming out and they'll actually follow the mother around. And they will beg for food from her, and she'll be very, very, obviously she has to be, but she'll be very giving and generous to them. So they'll come to her when she's got a prey item, beg for it, and she just drops it. There's no antagonism there, and she'll keep doing this. And as they get older and older and they're starting to actually forage for themselves, they will still try beg from her, but then she'll become more and more aggressive. And that's how she actually weans them off being totally reliant on her and becoming completely self-sufficient.
So for the first time, I think, in my entire life, I'm eye level with an elephant. And so is Gert. And that's because we parked on a little bit of a bump in the road. And this isn't a very big elephant either, so I suppose it wasn't too much of a challenge, but it's not every single day that you get to be at this height with an elephant. And I'm growing quite fond of this individual. He's a very kind and gentle, sort of spirited elephant. Well, I suppose most of them are. But he doesn't seem to mind the car at all, and almost finds some comfort into it, because he creeps closer and then he just stands right next to the vehicle and feeds. So now he's moved on from his hare's tail, he's eaten some acacia species, and he's now feeding on a sicklebush tree. So he's having a varied salad this morning. Also a tree with lots of big spines on them. I don't think the leaves are as tasty as the other bits of vegetation that he's been feeding on. But again, you can see it's... Now, he's not really eating the dry bits. He's going after the nice, nutritious stuff. It also looks like he's had an injury of some sort. Can you see that big scar that he has on his trunk? Can you see it? There we go. Look at that. So that's an identifying feature that we can use on this elephant. It's just dropped a little bit low, but when he lifts his head up again, we'll be able to see it. You can see it's a bit of skin. Hello, boy, it's okay. He gets a bit closer and then he gives himself a fright. It's a bit difficult to see now. But he must have had some kind of an injury of some sort. And that's a bit of scar tissue over there. But it's complete.
Welcome back to Tswalu Private Game Reserve here in the Sabi Sands, where we found a little family of warthogs. They're out in the open area. There's at least 2 adult females and 4 or 5 little youngsters with a big boar on the left there. You can see him. He's busy feeding all the way on the left there. He's not concerned. The females were a little bit concerned a moment ago. They made these really loud pig type of sounds. Exactly like that. Everything tries to catch warthogs out here. A big boar like that's only really got an issue with lions. Maybe for the big leopard, but he's a very big boy. Whereas these youngsters with the adult females are prime candidates for cheetah, leopard, and potentially even wild dog. But lion, of course, lion absolutely love warthog. Both leopard and lion have been known to dig warthogs out of holes in the ground. Hello, Jerry. You say you don't often see so many together. Well, this is a nice big group. But what essentially has happened is that the male has got a harem of females. He's got 2 females, and they've each got their little toe of piglets. Here we go. Little mini-me's there following mum. Look how cool they are. So you often will find a female after the breeding season with about 3 youngsters. So it's most likely that these 4 youngsters are the offspring of these 2 females. And the big boar is the adult male. And they're little mohawks. Aren't they cute? They are very quick when they need to be. But they're very low down on the ground. So they're not able to see as well as many other animals. And even though they're so low down, I think their eyesight is also very, very poor. Trying to figure out what we are by sniffing. You see the nose is moving. Oopsie, not very happy. And then when they run, the aerial antenna in the air so that they can follow each other through the long grass. The world of mice, welcome on board. We're very excited to have you watching. You said it's the first time seeing this live broadcast. Well, please feel free to enjoy. Post your questions below, all the 10-cent video viewers. There they go. They're a little bit uncertain about what to do. See how they all follow the leader. Their tail up in the air. Isn't that cool? That is so awesome. You're just watching them depart into the distance. I wonder where they're headed.
So I started chatting earlier about how sparse the fur on the chest is and how dark the chest is. So when the others come out, you'll actually see the difference in the color between this individual, which is the alpha female that's just had the pups, and the others. The others are going to be a lot more gray, and even on the back. And the reason for that is simply that she's been spending a lot more time underground, and with the pups actually suckling on her. So there's been a bit of moisture there in that, and that's what's getting that, like the nice red color of the sand onto her fur. But when you see the others come out, you'll see what I'm talking about. That's a distinct color difference between this and the others. And you can see that there's not a lot of hair on the chest. There is hair, but it's very, very sparse. It doesn't have a dense coat. If you take animals that live in super extreme environments when they don't have something like an otter, you know, these sea otters, I think they've got the densest fur of any mammal. And I can't remember what the figure is, and I'd be going out to the limb here, but it's I think it's something like 2,000 hair follicles per square centimeter. It's very, very dense. John Snow was asking about the meerkat hierarchy and what it looks like. So there's definitely a very, very, very strong hierarchy in meerkats. You'll get the dominant female, what we call the alpha female. Sometimes we say a matriarch, but it's in meerkats it's generally accepted as being the alpha female and an alpha male. She will be the only one that'll breed in the group, especially on smaller group sizes. There's 6 in this group. You do get groups of meerkats up to 40 that have been recorded, just over 40. Now that's kind of the upper limit, but on Tswalu the average group size is 6, 7, 8 at a time. I'm talking about adults, not pups. You know, if you've got pups, you can get a couple more. But within that, it'll only be that alpha male and alpha female that will do any breeding. On the bigger groups, then you can actually get subordinate females that'll try breed and try mate. This little one, this alpha female, will do her absolute best to prevent them breeding. And in fact, she'll take it so far is that if they actually are successful and they have pups, she will actually try to kill those pups if she gets half a chance.
Welcome back, everyone. Apologies for that loss of signal there. Of course, with us being out here in the African bush, it can be quite difficult to maintain complete control of things like signal, but we have to do what we've got to do, and it's part of the challenge of bringing you a live broadcast from the wilderness of Africa. We have left our pride of lions. It seemed that the more the sun came out, the harder they slept. And of course, you can blame cat being a cat. If there's a nice warm rock to sleep on and some sun shining on them, there's no chance that they're going to get up and move around. So we've left them and we've come out in search of a herd of elephants, which we've managed to find, as you can see. So I know that Dylan has been showing you those meerkats over at Tswalu and talking a bit about their matriarchal society, and I'm sure many of you know with elephants it's much the same. And we've just now been talking about, there's a big female that's just moved off to the left where we can't see her anymore, but she is the matriarch of this herd. And see how all of these elephants are busy feeding. You can just kind of see their backs sticking up above those low-growing bushes, and they're all very busily shoveling leaves and fruits into their mouths. Just looking through my binoculars into those bushes where they currently are, those, I don't know if you can see, those very dark green bushes where the elephants are feeding, and those are called magic guarries. And at this time of the year, the magic guarri trees and bushes in this area still have got quite a bit of fruit on them. And they have these lovely little round blue fruits that they produce. And elephants are absolutely stuffing themselves full of these fruit. Cammy, you're remarking that the landscape looks lovely and green. It absolutely does. We've had some very good rains this year, and even a little top-up over the last couple of days. Earlier this week we had a bit of rain, and that is why these elephants have come down here. Now, normally on our reserve, elephant herds at this time of the year will be in the far north of our reserve, in the denser forests where there's a lot more fruiting trees and a lot more vegetation for them to eat. But with the rain, this matriarch of this herd decided that it would be worthwhile for her to bring her family down here to come and investigate. With the added rainfall, there's probably been some fresh growth that's come through that she will have known about. She'll have those memories stored in her brain. Cam, you're remarking that elephants using those amazing trunks of theirs will, of course, put both dust and mud and water in there, and you're asking if it causes like a bit of congestion or mud to get stuck in those nostrils. Cam, no, it doesn't. So they are pretty good at keeping their trunks nice and clean. So they won't snort mud up into their trunks like they will water. They'll kind of just gather it up and then throw it onto themselves. I suppose with muddy water, they'll splash it onto themselves, and they might slurp up a little bit of it. But it doesn't really cause much of a problem to them. So I think we're going to keep on watching these elephants and see what else they get up to, see what else they start to feed on, and maybe we'll even try and find you a guarri fruit to show you what these elephants are eating.
Welcome back to Chitwa Watering Hole. We've got a couple hippos in the water here, and a very inquisitive little youngster coming to say hello. What's going on? Now, hippos live in the water, everybody. It's very important for them to have lots of water to cover their bodies. And there's some little youngsters in these hippo pods that we're finding now. It's not swimming, bear in mind. They can't actually swim. They walk on the floor. So there's different levels within this watering hole. And whenever you see the hippos, you'll know that they're either standing or lying down. You see the baby's gone under the water. So he was pushing himself up to get his head above. And there you can see Mum is now ducking down as the level of the water, or the bottom of the watering hole, dips. Now there's a few little babies that we've seen lately in this pod. It's called a pod because they've been recently classified as being closely related to whales and dolphins. BK directly right of that guy, just next to the bush, is actually a crocodile's head popping out there. You see it? There we go, there's a crocodile. Just up. There's a crocodile. There we go, down. There's a crocodile. Very difficult to spot. Crocodiles and hippos will share similar habitats. There's a crocodile, isn't it? I'm almost certain. I think I might be completely off. It's very difficult to tell if it's actually it is. It looks like a crocodile. I'm almost certain it is a youngster. Andrew, Mum is very protective of her youngster. Very, very protective. The babies. Well, there's a big one over there. That's a big hippo. She's resting on the bank. The babies are born very, very small in hippos. And they are very, very under risk, should I say. They're threatened by crocodiles. They're also threatened by hippos. So Mum often goes away from the pod, hangs off sort of outside on the outskirts, and gives birth there and spends the first few weeks or so with the baby away from everybody so the baby can't get squashed or injured. But if a crocodile comes near her, well, she will chew that crocodile in half. They don't like crocodiles. There's a mutual respect between these species. And they have to share the same water body. Bearing in mind, hippos are vegetarian and crocodiles eat meat, feeding primarily on fish. They also feed on small crocodiles as well as antelope when the time arises. But you don't normally find them in water bodies that don't have fish. Is that a baby's nostril sticking up next to it? Oh, it's her nostril. She's got a little bit of a sideways look going on over there. The life of a hippo. Seems like a pretty cool life to just hang out in the water all day, allowing the water to cool you off. When you get a bit cold, you come out and lie out in the sun. And we're going to spend a few more moments just taking in the scene.
So the little matriarch has actually just left the burrows. She obviously wants to get as much food as she can because, remember, she's got to keep her energy up and she's producing milk for the youngsters to suckle. So, and that one that's facing in that direction there, that hunched down, he's looking to where the matriarch's gone to. Or let's call it the alpha rather than the matriarch. So I think they're going to be heading off soon as well. And remember I was chatting about the colour of her fur, and that very reddish colour, and on her chestnut. And you can see these ones are a lot greyer. So the question is again, what will happen to the youngsters if this whole group goes foraging? What happens to the youngsters? Well, they actually always leave a babysitter with the youngsters. Now that won't be the mother, because obviously the mother, like I mentioned, she's got to be feeding the whole time to get enough energy to be able to look after them. So the babysitters tend to be, but are not always, tend to be the sub-adult females, one of the youngsters in the group, and she'll do sentry duty. So she'll just sit here the whole time, watching out, giving alarm calls if there's danger. The group will tend to feed a little bit closer to the burrow system if they can, if there's enough food availability. But when they go foraging, there will also be sentries. So the ones will be doing sentry duty. They'll even climb onto the top of these little trees, and like that one that we've got in frame there. They'll set up like that and just keep watching for danger even when they're foraging. Tinsley has just said what beautiful coats they have. Yeah, they are gorgeous. Eh? So that one that just ran across here, that's a youngster from the previous season, and you can see how much smaller it is than the one on the right.
Sorry guys, you found me in a compromising position, but we have found a leopard right near the hyena den. There she is. Hear the alarm calls going crazy. I'm just going to do this so we can just see her there. She's walking straight past the den. The den is just on the other side of her. This is Thandi. So remember we were hearing all those alarm calls? Things going crazy. We can still hear Impala alarm calling just over on that side. They're very upset to see a leopard. Now she's going to go, there they go, straight through to Treehouse Dam, which is where I'm going to go. But Thandi is notorious for giving us the slip. So it's going to be a tough one. But we're going to have to follow her as best as we can. Now Thandi has a little cub. Oh, there she goes. Thandi has a little cub, and that means that we have the potential to see this little cub. JT, you say Thandi? Yay. Big smiles? Definitely. Definitely. I'm just gonna have to find the best way to get around and in front of her. Chow, you say you are waiting for a leopard? Well, wait no longer, Chow. The leopard is here, and you can ask any questions that you like about her in the comments section. There she is. Just gonna get her on the side. There she goes. Oh, I just saw the tail end of her. She's gonna come out on the other side. There we go. She's literally heading straight towards the dam. So I think the best thing for us to do is head to the dam too. Maybe she'll have a drink, which would be exactly what we'd want to see, because then she'd be a little bit less mobile and we can have a good look. There's also the potential, of course, for her to show us her cub. So much potential. So much potential. So I'm going to go back to the dam and hope that she'll be there waiting for us.
How awesome. Well done, Trish. Well, we were following up on alarm calls and we just couldn't find her. So I'm pretty sure we were in the right area. The tracks we were following were very fresh. Well done for finding Thandi, and hopefully she does take you to the cub, because that would be something quite special. But we are still here at Chitwa with our little family of hippos, and they're just enjoying the morning. Nice little bit of, there's a bigger crocodile now floating in the middle there, BK. The wind flies with me, yes. Hippos have been recently at 9 o'clock, BK, in the middle of the dam there. Dolphins and whales have been linked with hippos. Hippos live in the water. There we go. Hippos live in the water. They give birth in the water, they mate in the water, they communicate in the water, their babies suckle in the water. So, and they accumulate in what we call pods. So although they walk out on land and they feed on grass, their closest relatives are indeed dolphins and whales. Sounds quite strange, doesn't it? But it is how science works, how taxonomy works. The Afrikaans name for a hippo is called a siakui, which is basically translated as a sea cow. They don't look much like cows. Pretty unique, really. Their adaptation to survive in the savannas is detailed or determined by their need to have large water bodies to cover themselves in. Would that little one was small, indeed. They get smaller than that. That one's at least a couple months old already. They get so tiny when we find some. We had a couple here yesterday. That's what I came to try and find. But we haven't seen them. They're probably around somewhere. They're so little. But we're going to see if we can find them for you shortly.
So just as we predicted, she's come down to the dam for a drink. She's also got a bit of a twitchy tail, which means that she's thinking about something, usually something to eat. she's being very good to us. Thandi is very notorious for, like I said, giving us the slip. But if we stay with her, or manage to stay with her, then she can show us her cub. This is awesome. So we identify leopards with their spot pattern. Thandi is a 3-3. She's about 13 years old. She was born in 2006, late 2006. Awesome, awesome stuff. Look at her walking on that damn wall. Amazing. So we're going to have to keep up with her. Just stunning. She's such a beautiful leopard. I love it when all that noise that confuses you pays off. Warm body, you're excited to see a leopard. I'm excited to see a leopard too. I really, really am. And if you have any questions about this leopard, our lovely Thandi, pop it into the comment section. Then we're going to have a last look at her just walking off there. Or maybe we won't. Actually, we'll just have to follow up. So we're going to do that. Hopefully we'll get a really, really good look at her.
So these meerkats are now starting to move. There's this one still at the burrow over here. There's a second one that's moving out to the right. It's actually, and the alpha female is far down to our right hand side now. We can actually still see her. But this one's not going to go. This one might actually just be a babysitter sitting over here. But so maybe we can have a look at this one moving across to the right over here in this open area. It's moving straight towards the alpha female now. It's going to be a difficult one to get. You can see it's lying flat, but it's going to go. There we go, there we go. And this is typical behavior when they start going and foraging. There is quite a bit of wind around at the moment, so they normally try to keep low down. They're obviously nervous because the wind obscures or masks any potential predators that may be in the area, whether it's African wildcat or snakes or jackals or caracal. All of these things are very, very real threats to meerkats. Consulting chickens, absolutely. They do look like, in some weird way, like a sundial. I agree. It's a very unusual look that they've got, and they do like the sun. In fact, you can pretty much early in the morning you'd see exactly where the sun is, even if you didn't know where the sun was some weird way, because they just keep facing the sun, and that's obviously to get that body temperature up. So we've got at least 3 that have moved off foraging now, the alpha female, and then 2 others, and then the rest are still down the burrow. There's definitely going to be a babysitter over here, and I'm not quite sure which other ones are down there, whether it's sub-adults or another adult as well. Thandi has just asked if they have bolt holes that they leave overgrown or hidden from predators. That's a brilliant question for 2 reasons. They have bolt holes, absolutely, and that's critical, especially when they're now away from the main burrows for foraging. But those bolt holes are not concealed. They might be just accidentally concealed, because they tucked into a bush or something. But there's no deliberate strategy to conceal bolt holes. These bolt holes are often in very exposed open positions, and the reason for that is they can get quick access there if they're out foraging and predator threatens. One of their biggest challenges here are birds of prey. A bird of prey can actually be sitting far away on a tree, tucked up somewhere, and they come in super fast and super low, and if the sentry doesn't pick that up, they can catch meerkats pretty easily. Just chatting to our meerkat habituate, Veronique, she has seen the opposite side of the spectrum, where predators don't always get their own way. She's actually witnessed a group of meerkats actually go down a burrow and take out an African wildcat, a young African wildcat, and pull it apart, kill it. So, and that's like quite gruesome. But you know, meerkats need to survive, and African wildcats need to survive. So an African wildcat will have no compunction about trying to catch a meerkat, and vice versa. You know, meerkats, if they get half a chance of killing another small predator within their immediate area or chasing one off, they will take that opportunity, no question.
So all of these lines have now managed to move into a bit of shade. Definitely not the most impressive bit of shade around here. But anyway, they're all bunched up in the shade of a little gori tree. Further behind them is the other white male and a lioness. So I've got a better piece of shade. He's actually now missing the shade completely. So he might get up in a while and just move further back into the shade again. But this is their spot for the day. Just a whole bunch of lazy, snoozy lions or cats. And they're not going to move till this afternoon, which is good news for us. So we will definitely be coming back here this afternoon after a bit of a tour around Anbianingala, and then we'll probably catch up with them little later again. But for now, I think, you know, since they're so sleepy, since they're just being lazy now, we might head off and see if we can actually find tracks of the two Ross males where we think the carcass was. Just drive around in that direction, see if we can find the rest. Susan, the Ross males took over territory 2 years ago, April. So 2018, April. And what happened, it was actually quite sad. The two lionesses gave birth already, so they had new cubs. And of those two litters, there were 3 white lions included in those 2 litters. And the Ross males came in and they killed all the cubs. Of course, this is something male lions do when they take over territory, because it pushes the lionesses back into estrus. So they killed the cubs, displaced or killed the previously dominant males or territorial males. And they took over territory as well, the territorial males over Birmingham Pride. So that was 2018, April. Quite sad. But such is nature. Very, very sleepy now. As you can see, it's been warming up quite nicely. I'm actually quite excited for the day. Bit of warmth is definitely what we needed. It's been very cold for the past 4 or 5 days. I'm just talking about how funny their movement is. So they moved east, killed something, ate something, and they moved further west. So they did not even a loop. It's like they moved in one straight line to the east till they found something to eat, and then came back in the same straight line back west. Hard work, says she envies the life of a lion. You know, absolutely, this lazy part. But if you had to ask me what animal I would like to come back with, my answer would never, ever, ever be a lion. I think my answer would never be a male lion. I think it's the most stressful life ever. Like all other males are trying to kill you. I think this young male has just had the toughest life ever. We were commenting earlier about his left leg. So this is basically how he's going to walk for the rest of his life. So he puts pressure on it, but he definitely dips down. So it's quite sad to see. Again, you know, all of it natural. I envy this part of a lion's life, you know, to be able to sleep for 16 to 20 hours a day. Lovely. But yes, imagine being one of these lionesses and you need to feed 8 cubs. It's also stressful. So yeah, hard work, I agree with you. Envy this part. But I think the other aspects of a lion's life might be a little bit tough. Though you could see the way they're sleeping, definitely apex predators. You know, they're not really worried about where or keeping themselves secretive at all. They just sleep absolutely anywhere.
the whole bush is their bed, isn't it? Lions and leopards sleep wherever they want. And we've managed to catch up once again on Juma with a small herd of impala. There's a little bachelor group of boys. You might ask, how on earth do you know that it's a bachelor herd of boys? Well, impala females don't have horns, so it's quite easy actually. The males have horns, which they use for fighting. And there you've got two different age groups. You see the one at the back, it's only sort of doing one little turn now. And then the one in front is turned even more. The first guy is 1.5 years old. The second guy's probably 2-3 years. And there's another couple boys with them as well. They hang out in these groups because, as I said before, with the birds, it's better to have more eyes and ears to protect you against predators. Same as the wildebeest hanging out in a herd. Someone else is always going to get caught. Hopefully it's not me. So these boys, although they compete with each other quite heavily for the right to mate with the females, they need to get there. The boys need to become men, and they need to become very strong men with the ability to fight with all the techniques. I'm just going to move around the corner here. Jennifer, the rutting season is over, but it takes some time for the testosterone in the boys to sort of dissipate. And there's still some male impala. Oh, I've done a very bad move there. There's still some male impala that are hanging out with groups of females. Oh, they're going to run across the road. Sorry, boys. So they're still hanging out with the females, and even though the mating is all done, they still feel like they're trying to be in charge, which unfortunately it's past that time. Well, we're going to quickly send you back over to Shashala, who's kept up with Thandi.
Thandi is very good at slinking away from us, but we managed to keep tabs on her. She's just very well hidden by the bush today, but you can see that movement slinking along. What a beautiful cat. Stunning, but she is again behind the bushes. So we're going to go around. I see her. Just get a gap here. Get it there, Darby? There she is, scent marking. Just amazing. It never ever ceases to excite me and amaze me when we see a leopard. Most beautiful, beautiful cat, in my opinion. Warm body. You'd like to know how old Thandi is? Thandi was born at the end of 2006. She's about 13 years old. And leopards will live to about that age. Sometimes a little bit more about 15. There she goes. She's on the road now, finally. Let's get out of low range here. And I'm going to try and get ahead of her, but I don't think we'll be able to on this particular road. So let's just stop and watch her. Hi, alternative. You'd like to know if this is a male or female, and how do we know? Well, firstly, I know that this is Thandi from her spot pattern, 3-3, and her very defined sort of black line underneath her eyes. Also, I know that Thandi is female. Females are smaller than males, but the obvious way to check would be if you see any scrotum. And Thandi has no scrotum. She goes behind a bush again. we're going to have to, hopefully we'll see her again. Come on, Thandi. All right, it's quite thick here. I'm going to follow up and find her again.
So this male lifted his head and he heard something behind him, but now you can almost see his head starting to drop from side to side. He's closing his eyes again. I think he's still enjoying the sun quite a bit. He might just flop back over. See a few flies irritating his ear. That's why it's flicking from side to side, but nothing too bad. If it was very irritated with it, he'd actually start biting at it. See both ears going now. It actually doesn't blend in too badly with the dried grass around him, I must say. And still see the pink tinge of blood on his shoulders and the side of his face. He's also got quite a full belly, so I think he's definitely had his fair share, or the lion's share of the carcass, whatever they had. Long live the fish, commenting that he really needs a wash. And he was very, very white as a cub, as a baby. He needs a good grooming session. Long live the fish, you are right. Oh, he's going to move to the shade. Big stretch. This is always hilarious to me, how they move to the edge of the shade. You know, if I was a lion, I would rather go to the middle of the bush and go lie down there. So you know you're going to have shade for longer, but I guess not.
Thanks very much. Well, we're trying to get this buffalo for you in shot. How's that? There's a nice big buffalo bull. He's busy feeding. Not the best shot, I'm afraid, but he's off the road in the thickets. You see him moving there. Just see if I can get around him here quickly. Checking one watering hole and another. That's how you find animals. Water is very important for many of these animals. I was hoping to maybe find a breeding herd of buffalo up at Buffelshoek, but we haven't found a breeding herd. We've found a nice big bull. Here he is. And he's quite relaxed, actually. Quite relaxed. Isn't he an impressive fellow? Using his tongue to rip the grass. Buffalo like nice, tall, juicy, tasty grass. They don't feed on short, nutrient-poor grasses. And what they do is, by feeding the way that they do, they actually chop the grass at an acceptable level. And they open it up, actually do what we call facilitation, in providing or chopping the grass down to a more suitable level for other animals. They're well known to eat grass that's much longer than many of the other ruminants will actually feed on. Oh, look at his tail, BK. He's missing the tip of his tail. It's probably been eaten off by a lion. Here he's going to come out into the open. And there he's going to walk. Maybe he's on his way to have a drink.
We're still with our herd of elephants, and it's still, for the time being, just the tops of their backs that we can see protruding above the bushes there as they busy themselves feeding. And when you were last with us, I said that I was going to try and find you some guarri fruits so that we could try them together. But we drove around the immediate vicinity, and it seems that the elephants and the birds and all the other animals that feed on the guarri fruits have beaten us to it. Now, in amongst those trees, just looking through my binoculars, I was able to see that there's another kind of plant growing in amongst those guarris that elephants love almost as much as they love guarris. And it's called a bushveld grape, also known as an elephant's pudding. And I've got an example here in front of me that we pulled off from a bush nearby. And have a look at how fleshy and rubbery these leaves are. They're really thick. And if I were to break one open, I don't know if you're able to see that splash of liquid. It's super succulent and almost like rubber, almost like a cactus, but without the spines. And like I said, elephants love to eat these. They're super soft, super nutritious, full of water. And we can even, as I said, elephants like to eat them, and even us humans can eat them. And they don't taste very good, at least not to me. They taste very sour. I'm not the biggest fan of sour food. Almost like a very sour green apple. And while we've been sitting here watching these elephants, we've been seeing them pulling out the vines and feeding on them. Elizabeth, you're saying that it sounds delicious. Like I said, Elizabeth, I suppose everyone has got different taste buds. I know that the elephants love to eat them because we see them feeding on it very often. And I've met certain people that like the taste of these bushveld grape leaves. But yeah, I suppose it's my personal opinion, I'm not the biggest fan of them. And the fact that these elephants are still pretty much in the same spot as where they were when you were last with us tells us there's obviously a lot of really good food in there for them. So while the other animals, like the buffalo you were with, Steve, while they might be heading towards water, I think these elephants are going to be content to keep on feeding in this area for quite some time.
So I'm very pleased. I have quite a soft spot for these little guys. These are armored ground crickets. For those of you who haven't seen them before. And armored, you can see those big spines on the thorax. That's why they're called armored ground crickets. And they live most of their lives on the ground. They're wingless, they can't fly. You'll get them climbing up trees, especially early in the mornings now. There's very few of them left. We had a big outbreak of them this summer. There were millions of them all over. But now, as we've gone deeper into the winter months, they've been dying off. And interestingly, where we found these there's an old meerkat burrow right here that had actually collapsed. So it's just this little round hole in the ground with these steep sides. And there's about 6 or 7 of them that had fallen in there and they couldn't get out. So I just took these two out to show everyone. And look, this one's actually grooming himself. Look at that. You see, they're clean animals. How cool. And when I say clean, that's just sand. All those little speckles on them, that's just the red sand. Meerkats will eat these, kind of with long teeth, but they will eat them occasionally if they have to. Oh, I wonder if he's going to start eating me. Come on, you can do it. Yeah. Tyler's just asked a wonderful question there, saying, well, what are the steps to becoming a safari guide and learning about all these things? The best thing that I can say to you is just have absolute passion for it. Whatever you do, have passion. And regardless of what you want to do. And keep learning. There are lots of online courses. There's practical courses that you can go on. And that's very easy to come across. You can just Google it. But in terms of your knowledge, you can have as many qualifications behind your name as you want. It doesn't mean that's going to make you a good safari guide. And I've got friends of mine that are just the best guides that I've ever met in my life. That they are just brilliant. But the thing that sets them apart is they just have this absolute passion for learning and understanding the environment. It's one thing keeping a checklist and saying, well, I've seen 500 bird species. Okay, well, if you can't tell people anything about those 500 bird species, then it's not worth keeping a bird list. That's my own opinion. It depends. If you try to have a race to see you can get to 500 first, that's different. But I'm a big believer in trying to understand animals and the ecology and how they fit into these systems. That's where the value is, and that is what will make you a good safari guide. And, it's not just about having a passion for wildlife and nature. It's about having a passion for people. Because, if we can't get a message across to people about why it's important to conserve these little guys, as well as wild dogs and pangolins and elephants and snakes and fish or whatever it is, it's about these as well. Then we're not doing our job as safari guides. People need to understand why it's important that these animals stick around for perpetuity. And what's not to love about this little guy? Okay? Good morning, everyone. Good to meet you all.
Can you film elephant far right? Welcome back. We're still with our elephants. And it looks like one of them has stepped a little bit closer towards us and come clear of those bushes so we can see its face a little bit better. Have a look at those short, thin little tusks on the front of that elephant. And looking at how thin those tusks are, as well as how pointy the forehead is of that elephant, we can tell that it's a female, so probably an adult female. But what caught my attention was that she was busy chewing on a large stick just now. I don't know if she's still got it in her mouth now with her head in the shadow. But we've been speaking about how these elephants will be feeding on the guarri fruits and the bushveld grape leaves or the elephant's pudding. Another very important source of food for these elephants at this time of year, especially with it coming into winter and with the bush becoming drier and drier, although it doesn't look like it's very dry now, but a very important additive to their diet in the coming months is going to be the bark of trees. And just below the outer, or rather not the bark, but the layer just beneath the bark called the cambium, which is the growing layer of a tree, and it's very nutritious. We often find that at this time of year, elephants focus on feeding on branches of trees as the leaves start to lose some of their nutritional value and as the grass starts to dry out and die off a little bit. See, she's now been joined by a bit of a smaller elephant. See, just to her right. Nana, you're saying that all that green looks so delicious? Nana, it most definitely does. Unfortunately, though, those guarri bushes, with the exception of their fruits, are not very tasty. The leaves are almost like paper, and they're very kind of brittle, not too much nutrients in them. And even the branches themselves are quite full of tannins, so they can be quite distasteful. Not many animals eat them very much. But I suppose for the elephants, those guarri fruits as well as the succulent leaves will do them just fine for their breakfast.
Thanks, Dylan. Indeed, elephants can munch, munch, munch. Well, we've managed to catch up with a herd of buffalo that had been at the watering hole and had a drink. And so we track them down. They leave a really nice trail of dung. It's very easy to follow buffalo. And here they are in this little depression. Beautiful green grass, tall green grass. What the buffaloes love feeding on. chopping it down and making it more suitable for many of the other animals. And at the same time, their hooves turn over the soil where it might be compacted, and they deposit enormous amounts of manure on the ground, which is nutrient recycling, as we have many different organisms that live off of the dung and help to recycle it back into the soil. Very nice fertilizing ability. It's a little 1-year-old or so buffalo. Now, the word breeding herd obviously refers to the fact that it's a herd dominated by females with their offspring and with a whole lot of mature males that are basically mating with them. There is a female hiding behind the bush.
And we found one of the smallest carnivores that you will see on a safari. And it looks like we've got an adult with a youngster. So the little one, the pup, is in front. And because they live in a family just like the meerkats do that you saw with Dylan and Tswalu, it might be either mom or dad or one of the other babysitters. But with these little dwarf mongoose are absolutely adorable, and they have woken up. I'm very happy that the sun has come up, that the ground is warming up too. You can see that's their house that they're actually standing on. It is a termite mound that goes deep down into the ground. So it looks like the younger mongoose pups are not wanting to venture too far away and look for food. They are just busy cleaning themselves, scratching. They must have lots of little mites and parasites living on them. And they're just learning how to be mongoose. You can see them very itchy. Very particular about the way that they clean themselves too. Licking and scratching. Richo, I'm glad that you find these mammals excellent. I also find them to be quite excellent. And you know what else they're excellent at is hunting. So what the rest of the mongoose are doing, like we've seen these ones are just cleaning themselves, but they look like youngsters. But the rest of the family will be out foraging, looking for all types of invertebrates. So from insects, maybe even some small reptiles that would have come out to warm themselves up. They eat a whole bunch of different things. These little ones might still be suckling though, so drinking milk. But I did watch one just chase a big ant around. But how sweet is that? Look, they're cleaning one another. You scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. There you go, you can just see them nibbling. You can see one of the adults still just keeping an eye out, making sure that there aren't any predators wanting to come and eat them. And it's a very dangerous game for such small animals. They have to be wary of predators lurking in the grass as well as from the sky. So we were talking about raptors this morning. There are lots of them around that will be wanting to eat these guys. But they also communicate with one another. So you might be able to hear their little chirps just here and there. And if they do see something, they'll make a louder chirp that everyone will be able to hear from a distance. Bunny, I'm glad that you've joined us on this safari throughout South Africa. It's pretty spectacular that you can do it from the comfort of your own home. And there they go. Just disappeared into the long grass. I'm just having a scan to see if they will maybe come back out again and we'll be able to see them. But it's been an unbelievable morning here at Pridelands. Should we see what else we can find quickly? I'm just having a little look. There were some hornbills and things sitting around, but I don't think that I can see them just yet. They have now have all flown away. There's a couple more mongoose. There we go. They've just come back out again. But I hope that you enjoyed this adventure with all of us here. And a big thank you to our 10-cent video viewers for joining us on this Saturday morning. And we'll be looking forward to doing it all again next week. So please remember to join us, and to our regular viewers, a big thank you as well. And we will see you this afternoon. But thank you very much, Mongoose, for coming back out and digging about. See you a little bit later.